Blackwood Mansion had been empty for years, abandoned by its previous owners after a series of strange and terrifying occurrences. The locals believed that the mansion was cursed and that whoever lived there would suffer a similar fate to the previous owners. But that didn't stop the new owners, a young couple named John and Emily, from buying the mansion and moving in. At first, everything seemed fine. The couple spent their days exploring the vast mansion and its sprawling grounds, marveling at the grandeur and history of the place. But as time went on, strange things started to happen. Doors would slam shut on their own, strange noises could be heard in the night, and objects would move inexplicably. John and Emily tried to ignore the strange occurrences, chalking them up to the old house's quirks. But things took a turn for the worse when they started experiencing terrifying nightmares. In these nightmares, they were stalked by a ghostly figure, with pale skin and hollow eyes that seemed to peer into their very souls. As the days went on, the nightmares grew more frequent, and the couple became increasingly paranoid. They started to hear whispers in the halls, and strange shapes would appear in the shadows. One night, Emily saw the ghostly figure standing at the foot of their bed, and they knew that they had to do something. They sought out the help of a paranormal investigator, a woman named Sarah, who had experience dealing with haunted houses. Sarah arrived at the mansion armed with a variety of equipment, including an EMF detector, a thermal camera, and a spirit box. As soon as she stepped into the mansion, Sarah could feel a heavy presence weighing down on her. The atmosphere was thick with dread, and she knew that they were dealing with something far beyond her usual ghostly encounters. She started her investigation, making her way through the mansion's halls, calling out to any spirits that might be present. At first, there was no response, but as she reached the upper floors, she heard a whisper in her ear. It was a voice she didn't recognize, speaking in a language she couldn't understand. Sarah continued her investigation, determined to uncover the truth about the haunting of Blackwood Mansion. As she made her way through the mansion, she uncovered a dark history, one that involved murder, betrayal, and revenge. The previous owners had been a wealthy couple, and the husband had been having an affair with one of the maids. When his wife found out, she was consumed with jealousy and rage, and she plotted to kill them both. She staged their deaths to look like an accident, but their ghosts had been trapped in the mansion ever since, seeking revenge on anyone who dared to live in their home. Sarah knew that she had to help the couple if they were to have any chance of surviving the haunting. She set up cameras and other equipment to monitor the mansion, hoping to capture evidence of the ghostly activity. As the nights went on, the activity grew more intense. The couple was afraid to leave their room, and the ghostly figure seemed to be getting closer and closer. But then, Sarah captured something on camera that changed everything. In the footage, they could see the ghostly figure materializing out of thin air. But as it did, it was surrounded by a bright white light, and then it disappeared. Sarah knew that this was a sign that the spirits had finally found peace and were moving on. The couple never experienced another nightmare or ghostly encounter after that night. The mansion was finally at peace, and the couple could finally enjoy their new home without fear. But Sarah knew that she would never forget the haunting of Blackwood Mansion and the terror that had once lived within its walls. The group was desperate for a way out, but the tunnels seemed to stretch on endlessly. They had no food or water left, and exhaustion was setting in. But despite their fatigue, they knew they had to keep moving. As they stumbled through the darkness, they heard a faint sound in the distance. It was a soft scraping noise, like something dragging itself along the ground. The group froze, straining to hear more. The sound grew louder and closer, until finally they saw it. It was a creature unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was vaguely human-shaped, but twisted and distorted beyond recognition. Its skin was slick and oily, and its limbs were long and thin, like tree branches. Its face was nothing more than a gaping maw of razor-sharp teeth, and its eyes glowed with a sickly yellow light. The group backed away, their hearts pounding in their chests. They knew they had to get away from the creature, but it was too fast for them. It lunged forward, its jaws snapping shut just inches from their faces. They scrambled backwards, but the creature was relentless. For hours they ran through the tunnels, pursued by the creature. They were too exhausted to fight back, and too scared to stop running. Eventually they stumbled upon a small alcove, and they huddled together, trying to catch their breath. But the creature was still out there, waiting for them. It circled the alcove, its claws scraping against the stone floor. The group cowered in the darkness, waiting for it to strike. And then, suddenly, it was gone. They waited for a long time, too scared to move. Eventually, they mustered the courage to peek out of the alcove. The creature was nowhere to be seen. They cautiously made their way back to the entrance of the tunnels, still on high alert for any sign of the creature. As they emerged into the sunlight, they realized that they had been underground for days. They were dehydrated, hungry, and traumatized by their encounter with the creature. But they were alive. They never spoke of the creature again, and they never went back into those tunnels. But the memory of the twisted, inhuman creature stayed with them for the rest of their lives. They never forgot the terror they felt in its presence, and they knew that they had come close to a fate far worse than death.